attending today's webinar. My name is Katie Timmer, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista here serving with Mentor Michigan. Michelle Susi, who is a mentor training consultant, will be facilitating today's webinar. But I'm going to go ahead and do some of the logistical information first. First, just to make things easier for our participants, we do offer two of the audio options, so you can listen through your computer speakers or you can dial in. Also, we do have all participants are automatically muted, and that's just to eliminate feedback and background noise. So if you have a question, there are also two options. You can raise your hand, which there's a little hand on the right-hand side of your screen, and if you raise your hand, we can unmute you and you can ask your question. Or you can just type it right into the questions log box, and we'll try to answer them throughout, but any leftover questions we'll get to at the end. So today we're going to be looking at matching strategy and monitoring matches. And this is actually the third in the series of Building a Successful Mentoring Program series. And we held the last two over the last January and then February. So this is number 3. And we also have the previous recordings if you're interested if you missed those. So on your screen, you'll see the 11 quality program standards. And today we're going to be reviewing standards 5 and 6, which address a program's matching strategy and the match monitoring process. So let's just begin with a brief history of the quality program standards for youth mentoring. So these standards were developed by the Mentor Michigan Providers Council. And the Providers Council provides expertise and ideas to Mentor Michigan as it implements its activities. And the council consists of up to 20 individuals that represent diverse mentoring programs, organizations, and collaborations from around the state. So there's members from community-based programs, school-based programs, faith-based, higher education institutions, local mentoring collaboratives, volunteer centers, and national service programs. So the standards aren't really meant to certify or accredit mentoring programs. Rather, they're meant to be used as a planning and assessment framework that raises the bar for mentoring programs. Even the Providers Council members that wrote these standards don't necessarily meet all the standards. However, they do believe that these are the elements that every program should be striving for. And additionally, all of the standards are based on research, evidence-based practice, and the national elements of effective practice. And in addition to the standards, the Providers Council also developed a self-assessment checklist. The purpose of the checklist is to provide youth mentoring programs with a tool for self-assessment. So as programs work to continually improve their operations and services to the communities that they serve, this checklist can really provide benchmarks for progress. So programs should be using this instrument to determine potential areas of improvement, as well as to identify those components of quality youth mentoring that are strengths of your organization. So both the quality program standards as well as the self-assessment checklist are available for free download on our website at mentormichigan.org. So in this session, we're going to be reviewing, like I said, standards 5 and 6 of the quality program standards for youth mentoring. So throughout today's session, we're going to explore strategies for making and monitoring mentee-mentor matches. And by the end of today's discussion, you should be able to summarize the matching process, develop appropriate matching criteria for your mentoring program, explain why ongoing support and supervision are essential components of effective mentoring programs, develop questions to ask mentors and mentees during the monitoring process, and to develop responses to common relationship changes. So first, we're going to focus on Standard 5, which is the matching strategy. So Standard 5 states that the program has a well-documented matching strategy. So this strategy should be 1, consistent with the program's statement of purpose. 2, the strategy should require that the mentor and mentee meet regularly as defined by program expectations, so meaning once a month, once every other week, once a week, etc. 3rd, that you have criteria for matches, including some or all of the following. So it could be gender, age, language requirements, availability, disability, youth needs, interest, preference, life experience, and temperament. Next, your strategy should include signed statements of understanding from all involved parties. So that means the mentor, the mentee, the parent or guardian, as well as the program, that agree to the conditions of the match and the mentoring relationship so that all the expectations for that match are right out at the table at the beginning of the match. And lastly, the strategy should match one trained mentor with no more than 4 youth for group mentoring. So now I'm going to pass it over to Michelle Susi, who's going to go through Standard 5 and a couple of polls with you.
Great. Thanks, Katie. Matching youth with an appropriate mentor is crucial, not only for the success of that individual match, but for the overall success of your program. As with your recruitment, screening, and training efforts, your procedure on making matches should be a reflection of your program's goals and objectives. The first step in creating a matching procedure is the development of matching criteria. Identify the qualities you'll look for in your mentors and mentees that will allow you to make a good match. There are a variety of possible matching criteria, which should include gender, age, background, language requirements, compatibility of available meeting times, disabilities, youth needs, shared interests and preferences, life experience and temperament, among others. Creating a hierarchy of criteria is one of the steps that aligns your matching procedure with your program's goals. For instance, if your program is related to job skill development, it's a centerpiece of your program's desired outcomes, then it makes sense to weigh the mentor's career and the youth's career interests more heavily than some of the other criteria. One key to making effective mentoring matches is to consider the needs and circumstances of the youth first, then try and find a mentor with suitable skills and qualities for that youth. Your program will need to decide which criteria are most important. So let's take a poll. Does your program have a written plan for making appropriate matches, including the criteria for making a match? So go ahead and select the one on the screen that fits best for your program.
We've got about 88% of people voting. I will show you the results.
Okay, great. So 87% of you said yes, 7% said no, and 7% said unsure. So the matching process can prove to be difficult for programs. Developing close and effective relationships among your matches begins with finding compatible mentor-mentee pairs. Here are some recommendations to assist program staff with the matching process. For the mentor, look at statements made by the volunteer about the volunteer's desire for a type of mentee, including preferences regarding religion, race, age, client family lifestyle, and type or extent of problem behavior of the mentee. Geographic location, skill levels of the volunteer, interests and hobbies, and overall personality. For the mentee, look at statements made by the parent guardian about volunteers' religious, racial, age, and cultural background preferences, geographic location, identified needs of the client for adult intervention, interests and hobbies, and overall personality. You can use these matching recommendations for the mentor and mentee to ultimately determine the match itself. Match determinations can focus around similarity of proposed match participants, compatibility of values and attitudes. And this is talking about also not only the mentor, but the parent or guardian that might be involved in this. Mutuality of interest and geographic proximity. This is a potential key to the success and longevity of a match. It's often the first thing a mentor will say, the reason for their closing of their match. So you want to really identify this. These characteristics about the potential mentor and mentee will surface throughout the application, interview, screening, orientation, and training process. You should utilize every interaction with the participants to flesh out these details and preferences to assist you in the matching process. This is another reason these are all critical steps in the process as a whole for matching mentors with young people. Beyond match determination recommendations, here are a few key things to consider when making the match. Involve everyone. Make sure that the young person, family, and mentor have all participated in the process via interviews, questionnaires, etc. Select volunteers with the right attitude. Research shows that mentor attitude is the most important ingredient in the matching process. A mentor with a healthy and caring attitude can be matched successfully with almost any mentee. Select volunteers with the right attitude and are willing to overcome barriers. Assess personalities. Personality factors are also critical pieces of the matching process. Will this mentor be able to connect with this young person? This can be an intuitive process, so it may be helpful to have a human relations person involved. Some questions to ask yourself. How does a young person tend to behave? Will the mentor know how to handle these behaviors? Will the two have some common ground from which to establish a rapport? Do they already know each other? This can be a best case scenario or can present problems depending on the relationship. How will the personality of the mentor match the personalities of the parent or guardian? Many programs have a staff member facilitate an initial meeting that takes place at the program site, rather than simply having the mentor and mentee meet off-site for the first time. This first meeting should have some clear goals and activities that will help the match get off to a good start. Give the mentor and mentee information and insight about each other. The next steps for the match, such as the future meeting times and the schedule for checking in with your staff, should also be covered at the first meeting. Having a staff member from the program facilitate this meeting will help the matches begin the relationship in a positive manner and to reduce anxiety for both the mentor and the mentee. Yes, both the mentor and the mentee. Some programs may also hold a large kickoff event or group activity for new matches. In addition, this is an ideal time to review the rules of the program, participant responsibilities, and expectations, and have the mentor and mentee sign statements that agree to the condition of the match and the mentoring relationship. So now your program is recruited, oriented, and trained participants, made good matches based on the needs of the mentees and other solid program criteria, and facilitated successful first meetings of the match pairs. Phew, that's a lot. Is it time to sit back and relax? Not a chance. Without monitoring and support, it's very possible for the matches that started off in such a promising fashion to dissolve, and in the process, winding up doing more harm to your mentees than good. Once the match between the mentor and a young person is made, the work has only just begun. Monitoring of matches and ongoing training for mentors are among the program practices associated with more positive youth outcomes. Regular contact with matches on a periodic basis may provide program staff the opportunity to identify difficulties as they arise and step in to provide assistance or to facilitate termination in the event of an inappropriate match. So now we're going to look at what's involved in the match monitoring process.
So Standard 6 addresses this issue of the match monitoring process. The standard states that the program maintains a process that monitors and supports mentoring matches, and so this process should include consistent communication between staff, mentors, and mentees, maintenance of a confidential file containing documentation of the application, screening, staff follow-up and input on the match, and mentor input on the match. It should include input from the mentee, the mentor, the family, community partners, and others that are important in the mentee's life. Also, make sure that there's a process for management of grievances, boundaries, premature match closure, rematching, and interpersonal problem solving. And lastly, this process should provide mentors of community-based programs with appropriate health forms, emergency contacts, and permission forms.
So let's talk more about the importance of match monitoring. Monitoring matches helps support the development of the relationships between mentees and mentors. Monitoring is also an essential risk management tool. Your staff needs to be informed as to what's going on in these mentoring relationships, not just to ensure that they're going well, but to assess whether there may be serious problems with the behavior of the mentor or mentee. Therefore, it's extremely important that your program implements a systematic procedure for monitoring your matches. This provides support for the match and assists in the early identification and resolution of potential difficulties in the mentor-mentee relationship. Also, match monitoring is the most critical element in youth safety for mentoring programs. Ongoing rapport with the mentee or youth will also help build a sense of trust between the youth and the program staff conducting match monitoring, increasing the chance of early disclosure by the youth. Program staff will also be able to be proactive with any identified concerns, issues, or inconsistencies with the match participants, which may alert you to other issues in the match. Risk management considerations aside, research indicates the following. Programs in which professional staff provide regular support to mentors are more likely to have matches that meet regularly and participants who are satisfied with their relationships. Programs that do not regularly contact mentors have the greatest percentage of failed matches because the mentor and mentee do not meet consistently and thus never develop a real relationship. Mentors and mentees benefit tremendously from the support they receive from program staff. Ongoing monitoring, training, and related activities provide the practical and moral support that mentors need to keep meeting with the mentees and to get through the rough spots. When developing and implementing a match monitoring process, it's important to think about the stages of mentoring relationships. While every relationship is unique, you can generally expect 3 stages, varying in length of time. In the first stage, the mentor and mentee will begin to get to know each other and hopefully develop a rapport and start to build a foundation of trust. This is the most critical stage of the relationship. Once trust has been established, they move into the second stage, in which they will begin working towards the goals they set in stage 1. While closure seems like an odd stage to include when looking at mentoring relationships, it's important to note that at some point all formal mentoring relationships end, whether it's because the mentee ages out of your program, the match simply did not work, or either party relocates. Now we'll discuss each of these stages in a little more detail. Stage 1 of a mentoring relationship involves the match developing a rapport and building trust. This is the getting to know you phase, which is the most critical stage of the relationship. Things to expect and work on during stage 1 include predictability and consistency. During the first stage of the relationship, it is critical to be both predictable and consistent. If the mentor schedules an appointment to meet their mentee at a certain time, it's important they keep it. It is understandable that at times things come up and appointments cannot be kept. However, in order to speed up the trust-building process, consistency is necessary, even if the young person is not as consistent as the mentor is. Testing. Young people generally do not trust adults. As a result, they use testing as a coping or defense mechanism to determine whether they can trust the mentor. They will test to see if the mentor really cares about them. A mentee might test the mentor by not showing up or to a scheduled meeting to see how the mentor will react. Establish confidentiality. During the first stage of the relationship, it's important to establish confidentiality with your young person. This helps develop trust. The mentor should let the mentee know that whatever he or she wants to share with the mentor will remain confidential as long as, and it's important to stress this point, what the young person tells the mentor is not going to harm the young person or someone else. And goal setting. This phase can overlap into stage 2. Goal setting is unique as it begins in stage 1 and transitions into stage 2. Goal setting is an important part of the mentoring relationship. Research has documented the power of a mentor to create opportunities for youth to become successful in school, improve peer relations, and make healthier choices. Goal setting is an integral part in providing these benefits. By gaining awareness of the importance of goal setting and incorporating this feature into the mentoring relationship, mentors can give their youth greater skills and more practice in meeting their potential. It's helpful during stage 1 to take the time to set at least one achievable goal together for the relationship. What do the two of you want to get out of this relationship? It's also good to help your mentee set personal goals. Young people often do not learn how to set goals, and this will provide them with the opportunity to set goals and work towards achieving them. The process of setting goals in a mentoring relationship takes us into stage 2. Stage 2, the middle, reaching goals. Once trust has been established, the relationship moves into Stage 2. During this stage, the mentor and mentee can begin to start working toward the goals they set during the first stage of the relationship. Things to expect during Stage 2 include closeness. Generally, during the second stage, the mentor and mentee can sense a genuine closeness in the relationship. Affirming the uniqueness of the relationship. Once the relationship has reached this stage, it's helpful to do something special or different from what the mentor or mentee did during the first stage, which helps affirm the uniqueness of the relationship. For example, go to a museum, sporting event, special restaurant, etc. The relationship may be rocky or smooth. All relationships have their ups and downs. Once the relationship has reached the second stage, there will still be some rough periods. Mentors should be prepared and not assume that something is wrong with the relationship if this happens. Rely on staff support. During this stage, the program should be prepared for the match to still rely on staff support. Programs should continue to stay regularly involved and connected to the pair in order to help them through these steps, particularly any rough patches in the relationship. Stage 3, closure. If the rough period continues, or if a mentor feels that the pair has not reached the second stage, he or she shouldn't hesitate to seek support from the mentoring program coordinator. Sometimes two people, no matter how they look on paper, just don't click. Some mentor-mentee pairs don't need to worry about this stage until further down the road. However, at some point, all relationships will come to an end, whether it's because the program is over, the mentor is moving, or for some other reason. When this happens, it's critical that the closure stage not be overlooked. During Stage 3, you can help the match to identify natural emotions, such as grief, denial, and resentment. In order to help mentees express emotions about the relationship ending, mentors should model appropriate behavior. The mentor should first express his or her feelings and emotions about the end of the relationship, and then let the mentee do the same. Provide opportunities for saying goodbye in a healthy, respectful, and affirming way. Mentors shouldn't wait for the very last meeting with their mentees to say goodbye. The mentor should slowly bring it up as soon as he or she becomes aware that the relationship will be coming to a close. A subject that may arise during the closure stage is the pair expressing an interest in staying in contact. We will now explore this issue a little more in detail. It's important to have policies and procedures in place for mentors and mentees staying in contact once the formal mentoring relationship comes to an end. This should be addressed during the match closure procedure. If mentors and mentees are mutually interested in continuing to stay in contact, programs should have procedures in place for handling these requests. In some cases, the match is not coming to a close in the traditional sense, where the pair simply did not click and the match needs to close and either party rematched. Examples of these types of closing include school-based programs not meeting in the summer months. If the mentor or mentee must relocate, the mentee ages out of the program, among others. These are unique cases, and while the formal mentoring relationship facilitated by the mentoring program comes to an end, the pair may be interested in staying in contact. Programs must have procedures in place to handle these requests in the event the issue comes up. This is especially important in school-based programs in which the matches do not meet over summer months. Programs need to have policies in place regarding contact over these months. What types of communications are allowed or encouraged by the program staff? Mentors and mentees need to be aware of these policies to maintain contact and continue their relationship if they wish. Summer contact is a key factor in retaining school-based matches and fostering closer relationships. So now that we've discussed the stages of a mentoring relationship, we'll discuss the monitoring process in more detail. What should be included in a good monitoring plan? A schedule for checking in with mentors, mentees, and when appropriate, parents or guardians, which is followed on a consistent basis with all matches. A set of questions that provide insight into the status and progress of the relationship. An opportunity for mentors and mentees to ask questions, raise concerns, and provide feedback about their relationship or the program in general. Programs can track the frequency of meetings by asking mentors to send in a form once a month, but the bulk of your supervision should be done via phone calls and face-to-face meetings. This will allow your staff to gather more in-depth information, ask follow-up questions as needed, and offer advice and encouragement. Program staff will also be able to listen for tone of voice, hesitations, or even joy in the mentor, mentee, or parent or guardian's voice. When checking in with mentors and mentees, your staff should take the time to thank volunteers for their commitment, make the youth feel good about having a mentor, and offer helpful tips and activity suggestions as needed. During all stages of a mentoring relationship, program staff should be checking in with all involved parties on a consistent basis. While the frequency of contact or topics to discuss may change throughout the course of the relationship, it's important to have a plan or procedure in place for determining when this process is completed. Checking in with program participants can serve several purposes: to make sure the mentor and mentee are meeting regularly, to determine the quality of the relationship, to address any problems or concerns that may arise, and to manage mentor and mentee expectations. So we're going to ask you another question. So we have a poll up. On average, how often are you checking in with the mentors in your program? At least every other week or several times each month? Once a month? Every other month? A few times per year? Or you're not sure?
We had 72% of the attendees vote, and here are the results.
So we have 46% are checking in at least every other week or several times a month, 38% once a month, 8% every other month, and 8% a few times a year. Hey, and nobody is not sure on that one. So, great. So let's talk about how often to check in. This question of how often a program should check in with their mentors is a constant concern among program staff. Many programs have found that the following approach works well. Contact the mentor within the first 2 weeks of the match. Use this contact to make sure the pair is meeting, to find out what activities they've done together, and to assess how the mentor feels about the match thus far. During the next few months, continue to check in with the mentor every 2 weeks. These ongoing contacts will help ensure that the mentor and youth meet regularly and are also important for uncovering any startup problems that require program staff's immediate assistance. For at least a year, continue to check in monthly with the mentor. The check-in discussion during this period should be focused on monitoring the quality of the mentoring relationship, assessing whether it is making progress towards its goals, learning whether the mentor or youth is losing interest in the match, and helping to address problems that may be arising between the pair. Your programs should also make sure that mentors know how to contact staff whenever necessary for advice and support. And the other one is, depending on the progress of the match relationship, the frequency or contact may need to be increased to provide additional support for the mentor or mentee to work through additional issues that you've found. During your check-ins with matches, there are several areas you want to obtain information in to assess the progression of the relationship. These areas include activities, looking specifically as to how often they're meeting, the activities they engage in, including who initiates the ideas and where they're taking place, and other details, changes in the mentor or mentee's lives, among other things. Under child safety, you want to look at boundaries, activities, and how things are going in the youth's life, such as relationships, school, and other areas. Concerns, whether voiced or perceived, concerns within their personal lives impacting the match, and make a needs identification plan from that. Under relationship development, you want to include communication, comfort level, expectations, level of connection, and satisfaction with the overall relationship. When you're looking at youth outcomes and development, is the youth confident, competent, or caring? Are there changes in behavior or focus area at this time? Under other comments, you can document things such as volunteer satisfaction and personal information updates. And then your next contact or follow-up. You can make sure to note future contact needed and follow-up action needed. This is also a good time to confirm contact information with all participants. You may have called them on the phone. Make sure you have the right mailing address for them at the time, or email address. You may have met them at the school. Make sure you have the right contact information for them. Make sure to look at the relationship development checklist included in Mentor's Elements of Effective Practice Toolkit for lists of specific questions to ask mentors, mentees, and mentees' parent or guardian during check-in to address some of these specific topics. So now what? If you haven't done so already, please download the Quality Program Standards for Youth Mentoring and the Program Self-Assessment Checklist. Use the checklist to help to determine areas of potential improvement needed and also to identify those components of quality youth mentoring that are strengths of the organization. They can be downloaded for free on our website at mentormichigan.org. Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, developed the Elements of Effective Practice and Toolkit, which are available for free download from their website at mentoring.org. Included in the toolkit are resources such as sample mentor and mentee match agreement forms, relationship development checklists, mentor and mentee feedback forms, and much more. Look at your own program policies and procedures. Do you have a consistent matching strategy? What criteria do you use to match mentors and mentees? Are you maintaining consistent contact with your matches? Do you have a schedule of when you should check in? Do you offer ongoing training for mentors? And do you create an open or approachable environment so that they're comfortable to contact you for advice or help with any concerns? Please visit the Mentor Michigan website at mentormichigan.org to explore all of the handouts, resources, and related information available. There's a ton of resources available on the website and several resources related directly to the information presented in this webinar. In addition, take a look at the Training and Technical Assistance page for a complete listing of the webinars that Mentor Michigan is offering to the mentoring field. And lastly, we'd like to open up for any questions or comments. And Katie, how would you like to instruct folks to do so?
Sure. If you have a question, like I said before, you can either raise your hand, and that's on the right-hand side. There's a little box with a hand, and then we can unmute you. Or you can type your question in the questions log box, which is also on the right-hand side, and we will answer those over the phone. I don't see anything coming in. We must have covered everything really well, huh? Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the webinar and you learned a lot about the topic, and make sure to join us for our future webinars in this series as well as the others. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.